Thank you guys. Oh my gosh. I hope you guys feel at least a little bit silly for giving someone a standing ovation for merely saying that men and women are different. I don't know. It's kind of like the whole shtick. Thank you guys. What a blessing it is to be here. And goodness gracious, to look out and see so many young faces. This is truthfully not the norm. So to see this, I just feel so hopeful and I feel so inspired. And before I say anything else, I just want to say I hate going after Pastor John. Thank you for your bold proclamation of the Lord and his goodness. Very grateful for you and everything that you do for Turning Point for this country. So thank you again. And Sophie, thank you. What a beautiful introduction. Very, very excited to be here. Like I said, this is not often the crowds that I find myself in front of. I would imagine living in Maine, maybe similar situations you have found yourself in. It's been a passion of mine these past few years to get on campuses, to reach young people, high schoolers, college-age kids, getting on campuses, coast to coast, border to border, liberal universities, private Christian universities, everything in between. Not too long ago, I went to San Francisco, which was my first mistake, going to San Francisco. But I went there, honestly, to share a similar message. San Francisco State University, guess I was just naive, to believe that these students and community members would come with an open mind and the willingness to have their hearts softened, because they did not. They came with pitchforks and fire. And upon delivering my message, in a similar form, it was a classroom setting, so a podium at the front, door at the back. A group of protesters rush in. They ambush me, fully accosted, turn the lights off so it's pitch black. I'm being pushed, I'm being shoved, I'm being punched in the face by these men wearing dresses, which fortunately for me, their punches don't hurt that bad. But nonetheless, these protesters ended up holding me for ransom for about 4 or 5 hours, demanding that if I wanted to make it back home to see my family safely again, I had to pay them money. Might be wondering, where were the police? We were in San Francisco, so the police were being held for ransom with me. Hour 3, hour 4 in this room, I'm looking at the officers, can't you do something? Actually, isn't it your job to do something? To which they verbatim said, no, we can't do anything. We're not allowed to do anything because we're not allowed to be seen as anything other than an ally to this community, or else we'll lose our jobs. Again, the same community who's on the other side of the door, calling these officers racist pigs for protecting a white girl like me. Anyways, it's about midnight at this point. They were holding me through the middle of the night. The dean of students shows up and starts negotiating with the students how much I owed each of them to be able to leave, which the price they ultimately agreed upon was $10 each, which makes me mad because I think I'm worth more than $10. But anyways, we were eventually able to get out of this room. Not because the protesters or the mob dispersed, but about 40 or so officers formed a diamond around me. We pushed out. But the most remarkable part about this was what happened the next day when the vice president of student affairs at the university sent out a university-wide email. So to all faculty, all professors, all staff, the entire student body. And in this email, she said, "We are so proud of our brave students who held Riley Gaines in the manner that they did. We know how deeply traumatic her presence is on this campus. And so here are some counseling resources for you all. Take the day off of school." They literally got the day off of school as college students. Just know that we see you, we hear you, we love you, and we stand with you. Nowhere in this email did it condemn violence, violence against women for that matter. Nowhere in this email did it say that we uphold, we understand the value in our First Amendment rights, free speech. No, of course not. I could describe, seriously, like hundreds of similar scenarios where I've been spit on, drinks poured on me, glass bottles thrown at me, the most obscene, profane, heinous things you could possibly think of being said to me. So when I say I'm grateful to be in this room, please know I mean that from the very, very bottom of my heart. Look, it wasn't too long ago where I was stood next to President Trump at the White House as he signed an executive order barring men from participating in women's sports within any educational program that receives federal funds. And maybe some of you remember like the clips or the images or the visuals that surfaced following this signing. You know, you have President Trump surrounded by a sea of young girls. I'm talking like 5, 6, 7-year-old. They're wearing their sports uniform or their jersey, or they've got their big bows in their hair that they wear on the soccer field. Let me tell you what, that visual means more to me than I could possibly put into words. So when I hear someone like Governor Mills, you know, I think in what she thought was like this mic drop moment where she tells President Trump, I'll see you in court. When I see this encounter, I believe what she thinks she's doing is pushing back against President Trump, giving President Trump a middle finger, if you will. That's not at all what she's doing. You know what she's doing is she's giving a middle finger to every single one of those little girls who was there that day standing beside President Trump. I'll just give you the 30,000-foot overview of how I have found myself in this situation, standing behind this podium talking to you guys. Was a collegiate swimmer, swam at the University of Kentucky, did some great things in my career, things that I'll forever be proud of. 12-time All-American, 5-time SEC champion, actually the SEC record holder in the 200 butterfly, making me one of the fastest Americans of all time. 2-time... It's very past tense now. 2-time Olympic trial qualifier, SEC Scholar Athlete of the Year, SEC Community Service Leader of the Year. The list goes on, but just to highlight the point, it's a lifelong journey, right? To be able to compete at and succeed at the highest level, which I know I don't have to tell the people in this room. I had the pleasure of being able to speak to so many of you, especially those of you who are in high school or in college, those of you who play sports. Maybe some of you are parents of athletes, former athletes, right? Like you get it. The time and the hours and the dedication and the sacrifices that you have to make, again, to compete and be successful. I was no different. I'll just flash forward to my senior year. Senior year rolls around. I had set a goal to win a national title, which would, of course, mean becoming the fastest woman in the country in my respective event. Right on pace to achieve this goal. About midway through my senior season, I was ranked 3rd in the nation in the 200 freestyle, trailing the girl in 2nd, a girl I knew very well, by a few 100ths of a second. Right, swimming, similar to track and field, it's a sport that's measured in very small margins, hundredths of a second. Quicker than a blink of an eye. I knew the girl in 2nd. The person leading the nation was a name that I had never heard of. And this person was leading the nation by body lengths. First time I became aware of a swimmer named Leah Thomas. Lots of red flags. Bear in mind, we hadn't seen a photo of this person or else things would have been a little more clear. But for all we knew at the time, this was a senior from the University of Pennsylvania, which is not a school that has ever historically produced this caliber of swimmer, leading the nation again by body lengths in events ranging from the 100 freestyle, which is a sprint, all the freestyle events in between through the mile, which is of course long distance. And if you think about that piece, think about your Olympic runners. That's like saying your best 200-meter runner is your best marathon runner, right? It doesn't happen. Like they're two totally different systems. That's what we were seeing in this athlete. I'm looking up the name Leah Thomas. There's no history of this person. It was as if this person literally didn't exist until that season. Talking to my coach, who is this? We had no idea. And we continued to stay in the dark until an article came out disclosing very briefly that Leah Thomas is actually Will Thomas and swam 3 years on the men's team at University of Pennsylvania before deciding to switch to the women's team for a senior year. When I read this, I was shocked, right? Naturally, my whole team was shocked. But really, I felt this sense of relief. Like, oh, duh, that makes sense. This person's a man. That feeling of relief was only further solidified when I went to look up who Will Thomas was. In these same databases, I was searching the name Leah Thomas. I found that Will Thomas was really a less than average male swimmer competing in his rightful category, the men's category, at the Division I level, ranking in the 400s and 500s nationally before, again, 12 months later, dominating the entire country of women. But that's why I say I felt relieved. I thought the NCAA would see it how I saw it, and how my teammates saw it, and how my coaches saw it, and how my parents saw it, and how anyone with any amount of brain activity would probably comprehend this, right? Nothing hateful about it, nothing even opinionated about it. Looking at the mere facts on the paper in front of us, that this was not a lateral movement. But lo and behold, the NCAA did not see it that way. They saw nothing wrong with this. And so about 3 weeks before our national championships, they released a statement saying that his participation in the women's category was a non-negotiable, meaning there was nothing we could do. No questions that we could ask, no concerns that we could raise. We were literally told we had to accept this with a smile on our face. And so I watched that first day. It was the 500 freestyle, which is not an event that I typically do. And so I watched on the side of the pool as he swam to a national title, beating out Olympians, beating out American record holders. I mean, again, these aren't scrubs. They're the most impressive, the most accomplished, the fastest female swimmers this world has ever seen. And he beat them all by body lengths. The next day was the day that he and I raced in the 200 free. And so, you get on the blocks, top 8 women in the entire country. And I look over at the lane next to me, and there was what was very visibly a man. 6'4", size 15 feet, taking up the entire diving block. It's literally like South Park episode, or like Babylon Bee headline, like an SNL skit when SNL was actually kind of funny. We dive off, we swim 8 laps of freestyle, touch the wall at the end, and almost impossibly enough, we had tied, meaning we went the exact same time down to the 100th of a second, which is rare, right? You're racing for 1 minute and 40 seconds, and not even 1/100th of a second separated us, which, looking back now, you can't tell me that's not divine intervention. But anyways, we get out of the water, we go behind the awards podium where the NCAA official looks at both him and me, him towering over me, and he says, "Great job, you two, but you tied. We don't account for ties. We only have 1 trophy, so we're going to give the trophy to him. Sorry, Riley, you just don't get one. You can pose with this one, but you have to give yours back. He takes the trophy home. You go home empty-handed. End of story." And let me tell you what. That was the moment when for me, right? I knew all season. We all did. I knew the unfair competition was wrong. I knew the locker room scene was wrong. I knew the silencing that we were facing as women, as student athletes, as female athletes. I knew that that was wrong. But in that moment, understanding that we were being used as women, as like a photo op to validate this man's feelings, his sense of happiness, that's when I was just no longer willing to wait. And I say wait because that's what I was doing. I'm ashamed to say it. I was waiting for someone else to do something because I thought someone else would. I thought surely there would be a coach. Surely there would be someone within the NCAA, someone with political power, some other swimmer, someone's dad, I don't know, would come down there and yank this man out of our locker room like my dad so desperately wanted to do. But it was really in that moment, standing on that podium, holding this trophy I knew I had to give back, sharing my placement with a man standing, again, 9 inches taller than me, when I just had this realization of, Riley, how in the world can you expect someone to stand up for you if you're not even willing to stand up for you? So that kind of in short, again, the unfairness coupled with the locker room, which very briefly, it's impossible to put into words. The feelings of just total violation and humiliation and betrayal when you're in an intimate area of undressing, right? I'm sure some of you, I talked to some of you who are swimmers, right? Your racing suit is skin tight. It's paper thin. It takes like 20 minutes to really poke and prod yourself into these suits. And that's 20 minutes of which you're fully exposed. When you have your back turned, you're putting on your suit, and all of a sudden you hear a man's voice in the locker room. Like it's instinctual. Like you flick your head around, had to look up because again, he's so much taller than everyone. And there's a man taking off his women's swimsuit, fully naked, fully intact, fully exposing himself. Inches away from where we were simultaneously fully undressed as women. And again, with the silencing piece, really the emotional blackmail. I don't use that phrasing lightly. How we had to participate in, I had to go to sensitivity training, which it didn't really work, but I had to go, where My university sat me down, a 21-year-old senior in college at the time, and they told me how to use she, her pronouns in a sentence. I had to keep going through this training until verbatim they felt like I had been properly re-educated. We had to participate in restorative justice circles where we learned about how we were the oppressors. He was the victim. Again, he just wanted to be happy. We were impeding on his happiness. Yes, you're playing and swimming, competing at the Division I level. Yes, it's the national championships, which like the top 1% of the top 1% make it to. So it's the pinnacle of your sport, but some things matter more than winning. This isn't really about winning. This is about happiness, being inclusive. That's what they said. Which, let me tell you, the language and just how conflated our words, the English language, have become. Words like inclusion, when you hear that, which sports in their true nature are inclusive, okay? Anyone and everyone can and should play sports. I'm the biggest advocate for every single person, regardless of any identity factor, regardless of what religion you are, what color your skin is, your sexual identity, who cares? Everyone should play sports. Sports is what has given me the leadership to be able to do what I do. No one should be denied that, and no one is denied that, okay? So sports in their true nature are inclusive. But you know what's not inclusive? Competition. In its true nature, by its definition, it's exclusive because you have a winner. Exclusion is not a bad thing. Hear me when I say that. There are places where exclusion is actually necessary. It's a good thing. And in those places, we should embrace exclusion. And now when you hear someone of the other side, and I hate to make it partisan, because truthfully, this is not a partisan issue. It's really not. Unfortunately, that's the way it's played out among elected representation, and certainly in how the media portrays these issues. They make it seem very polarizing. It's really not. But when you hear someone who's standing on the House floor, the Senate floor, and they use the word, and they're from the Democratic Party, and they use the word inclusion, your brain should automatically replace that word with exclusion, because what we faced as women, it was not inclusive. It was exclusive. And it was exclusive to the very women that the female sporting category was created to protect and to uphold. Same thing with words like compassion and empathy. These are wonderful things in their true nature, but they have been totally misconstrued. It is not compassionate to lie. That's not what compassion is. That's not what empathy is. No, that's doing real harm. And in this case, it's harm that could ultimately lead to cutting off of healthy body parts. Okay? Understand the gravity of which we're talking about, which in speaking to the medicalization side of things, I don't think it will be long before we accurately look back and call that what it is, which is the biggest medical scandal this world has ever seen, and a very, very profitable one at that. So we've seen an onslaught of just deceitful and destructive, even the phrase of gender-affirming care, it sounds like a positive thing, right? They use that word affirmation. It sounds really good. It's a lie. There's nothing affirming about telling people they're correct to feel as if they're born wrong. What a horrible message. It's no wonder, and I say this, like, truthfully, this is tragic. It is no wonder the suicide rate among this demographic is so high. They're being told they're correct to feel as if they're born wrong. It's a horrible message. We should be telling them, as Christians, as human beings, as people who care deeply and passionately about the truth, we should be telling them that they're perfect just the way God so intentionally and uniquely created them in His perfect image. So I say that to say, be mindful of the words that you use. Even the phrasing of biological woman, I think, is detrimental, right? It implies that there's some form of like an unbiological alternative to being a woman, which there's not. Male and female will suffice. Man and woman, boy and girl, mother, father. That is just enough. You don't need the prerequisite of biological when describing yourself or anyone else for that matter. It just muddies the water. It confuses people. My grandma will read articles. She'll send them to me with, it uses trans woman, trans men. My grandma will send it to me and be like, wait, so is a trans woman a man who's a woman, or is it a woman who's a man? And I have to tell her, Gammy, I don't even really know, to be honest with you anymore. I'm confused just as much as you are. So use clear language for everyone's sake. That's the most kind and loving and compassionate thing you can do. I want to spend just a brief second and tell you about what's going on here in the state of Maine, which you guys live it, so I don't really need to tell you. We have seen many boys in many different sports win countless races, even state championships here in the state. You have an attorney general here in this state. I want to read this quote directly because it is quite ironic. In a press release earlier this year, after Governor Mills had her moment with President Trump that absolutely backfired, by the way, your Attorney General released a statement, and it says, word for word, nothing in Title IX or its implementing regulations prohibits schools from allowing transgender girls and women to participate on girls' and women's sports teams. That is exactly what Title IX was created to prevent. It's exactly what Title IX was created to prevent. Under the previous administration, President Biden, he illegally and administratively rewrote Title IX to include men as women by, again, conflating the phrases of gender identity and sex, making these words like interchangeable, synonymous. They're not. They're not at all. So in your state statute or your state constitution, when you have protected classes, one being sex and one being gender identity, understand those are in direct conflict with one another. You cannot protect both of those things at the same time, okay? There has to be a compromise somewhere. So understand that. So your Attorney General sucks, by the way. But not everyone in this state sucks, because you have people like Laurel Libby, which absolutely... there are very few who have fought as hard and as unapologetically, and I mean that, they literally wanted her to apologize on the House floor before they allowed her to have her vote, to represent you all again. Really think about that. A female representative in this state, the great state of Maine, lost her ability to vote and to speak on the House floor for defending girls and women. No, this did not happen in England or in Afghanistan, this type of censorship. It happened right here in America, in the state of Maine. It's not progress. They love that word. They say it's progressive, what we're doing, indicating we're moving in the positive forward direction. This isn't progress. It's regressive. It's taking us back in time at least half a century, and it's utterly misogynistic. We've seen boycotts, which have been we've dubbed this as Project Boycott with emphasis on the word boy, where girls, maybe it's an individual sport, maybe it's a team sport, they get up to the net, they realize there's a boy on the opposing team, and they say, look, we're not playing. We're going to forfeit this. And yes, we might technically suffer a loss on our record. But you know what? Some things matter more than victory. The truth is one of those things. Reality. Our safety is one of those things. We have fantastic advocates in this state. People like Alan Cornwall, who is yes, absolutely, who is a coach and an official who so bravely, in a time where, again, even just a year ago, wasn't as received. Think of the leadership that we had a year ago at the national level. It wasn't easy to say that boys can't become girls, that there are two sexes, that you can't change your sex, that each sex is deserving of equal opportunity, of privacy, and of safety. But Alan did. People like Julia Dietrich, which I believe she's here too. Yes, whoever she is, who has gone to school board meetings and used her voice, who's faced immense pushback, by the way, for doing such, but nonetheless a fantastic representation of the people in this room and beyond. We've seen Turning Point chapters. How many of you are involved with a Turning Point chapter, whether it's at your college or high school? Yeah, this is fantastic. We've seen those really grow, not just here in the state of Maine, but across the nation these past 2 months, obviously in light of the tragic, horrific, premature death, murder, assassination of Charlie Kirk, which I would imagine, like many of you, like it's feelings of just disbelief and shock, and it turns to grief and being tearful, and then it turns to anger, honestly, and rage. How could this happen? How is he really gone? How do you see people celebrating this online and beyond in your personal life? But being here and seeing this, honestly, like I said, I feel just hopeful and inspired, so thank you guys. All that to say, it is amazing to me that we are still here fighting this fight, that the Democratic Party has doubled down. They have not distanced themselves from their voting record or from their statements or from their positions like I thought they would. I really did. When President Trump won, I thought they would, slowly start to recant. That's not what they've done. No, they've leaned in. They have only further embraced the radical, fringe, extreme policies that they stand for. I mean, Mom Donnie is a perfect example of that. This is like the new face of the Democratic Party. That should really terrify you. Everyone is getting behind him, not just a few. Every Democrat at every level, local, state, and federal. We saw what happened in Virginia, the Attorney General, who won, by the way. This is a man who said that he wishes to watch the children of his political opponents die in their parents' arms. The state's top law enforcement officer, anyone, that is a condemnation of humanity. The past, I guess 3-ish years, I've talked to countless parents, young girls, coaches in the state of Maine who have virtually all said the same thing. Why won't they protect me? Why won't they protect my athlete or my daughter? I've talked to girls who have lost out on spots on the team, on roster spots. I've talked to girls who have been exploited and simultaneously exposed to naked men in locker rooms. I've talked to girls who have been severely injured in their sports due to men on the opposing team. Maine has for too long turned its back on women and girls. Again, you can't protect the rights of girls to play fair and safe sports and also protect the boy who wants to take their place. It's a choice. And again, Maine has dismissed its girls. I'm here to tell you that you can, and there's no shame in saying and standing up for our girls. So I guess my encouragement to you guys is to speak out, say what's right, say the controversial thing, do what's right, because at the end of the day, it's going to take all of us. This message that I'm here to share, that we're here to share, that Maine Girl Dads has done a fantastic job of rallying behind, it's not one that's anti-anything. I hate that verbiage. They call us transphobic. That's such a stupid word. It holds no weight, okay? They'll call you racist or you insert it. They mean nothing now. They've lost their meaning because they've been used. These are, again, they're pretty horrible words in their true meaning. They don't mean anything anymore. This message, it's not anti-anything. It's pro-something. It's pro-reality. It is pro-science. What happened to follow the science? It is pro-safety, pro-equal opportunity, pro-privacy. It's pro-woman. And if being pro-woman is anti-trans, then so be it. Okay? Be willing to take it on the chin. Okay, very, very quickly about this ballot initiative. Again, the ballot initiative or referendum and the lack of leadership, bar again very few in the legislature and people across the state, it's going to reveal something for all Mainers, which I just learned you guys call yourself that, Mainers. All Mainers and Americans to see. When you get to the ballot box in November, you will likely see a question that says something to the effect of, do you believe that sports should be separated on the basis of sex? And so here's what I want you to challenge yourself and for you to go out and challenge others. Number one, do you believe that women are worthy of safety on the field, on the court, or in their everyday lives, for that matter? Yes or no? Okay, do you believe that women are worthy of calling themselves champions? Yes. Okay, do you believe that women are worthy of privacy in areas of undressing? Yes. Then the answer is really, really simple. Then you support this referendum, this initiative, this effort that all of you in this room have already rallied behind, people like Maine Girl Dads. There's a real opportunity here for the state of Maine to lead. It's really hard to get something like this done. Again, when you're working against the legislature and obviously against the governor and against the attorney general. It's not easy, but you have the opportunity for your voice to be heard, and I promise you so many other states are watching. There have been 27 states that have passed some sort of fairness in women's sports law at this point. None in this, I guess, by these means. So you could be the first, and that's a really cool feat. And guess what? You give courage and hope to people like in states like Pennsylvania or Colorado, where, again, their legislature can't do it. It can't even get out of committee. So they need their people. This is encouraging, not just to the state, but across the nation. So again, thank you guys for being here. She's standing over here, which means she wanted me to stop talking a long time ago. I know what that means. Very grateful. Young people in the room, get involved with your Turning Point chapter. If you're here, you're not involved with the Turning Point chapter, I highly, highly recommend. There are people here who can help point you in the right direction of how to get involved, how to use your voice. I said young people, so I guess I have to say something to old people too. And if you're offended by that, it's probably because you're old. Old people, or I should probably say people with money. Maybe that sounds better. There are wonderful ways, of course, to get involved. Volunteer efforts, which I know at Maine Girl Dads, they really need. But if you're blessed and willing to give financially, these things require money. They just do, unfortunately. If that's something that you can consider, I would highly recommend it, because what it is that, I mean, it's an investment, but there is no better investment than your children or your grandchildren's future. There's no better investment than that right there. So thank you guys.